Good evening, Mr. Attorney, ma'am.
Mr. McClellan, you've been on a lot of sets with live animals before, right?
That is true. I once fought a kangaroo who was wild.
And whenever you go on these sets with live animals, the studio will usually send you a list of safety guidelines before the show, right?
Usually, not all the time, though.
So for the June 29th show, Midlands Television Studios had sent you a list of safety guidelines before the show.
That is correct. They did.
And on these shows, there's usually a physical copy of those guidelines for you available on the day, right?
Well, again, not always, but there usually is when there is.
And on June 29th, Midlands Television Studios provided you a physical copy of those guidelines in your dressing room, right?
That is correct.
So you would agree with me in saying that the show on the 29th was mostly the same as any other?
Mostly aside from the death part.
So, Mr. McClellan, you've also had prior experience with Ms. Kosak before, right?
That is correct. Very professional.
You've heard her speak.
That is true.
So if you heard her in the future, you would be confident that you could recognize Ms. Kosak's voice?
Well, I would say so, yeah.
So if you heard Ms. Kosak's voice on June 29th, you could confidently say that it was in fact Ms. Kosak.
I do believe so.
So on June 29th, you went to the rehearsal, right?
That is correct.
You skedaddled to the set, right?
Moseyed, strolled, pick your verb.
So as you were skedaddling onto the set, you passed by Ms. Kosak's dressing room.
That is also true.
Ms. Kosak's dressing room was empty.
That is correct.
Then you passed by the green room.
I certainly did.
And as you were passing by the green room, you heard Ms. Kosak speaking on the phone.
That is true. At the time, I wasn't entirely aware until slightly after when I heard Kozak again.
But it was Ms. Kosak on the phone, right?
In hindsight, it was.
You heard Ms. Kosak say, Elias is grumpy today, right?
That is true. There was also some whining noises of a chimpanzee, so I couldn't be 100% sure I made out everything, but that is what I recall.
Elias was, in fact, screaming, like you said.
It sounded like a big old baby. It was like, "Wah!"
And then you heard Ms. Kosak go on to say, I know I could have told them that, but I don't think I want Elias to calm down.
Those were some words I heard.
So when you got onto the set, you said you stood with a group of writers, right?
That is correct.
And while you were standing there, you saw Ms. Kosak bring Elias onto the set.
That is true.
And then you saw Ms. Kosak walk away.
That is correct.
Ms. Kosak left Elias up there alone with Alex Grace.
That is the sequence of events.
And Ms. Kosak stood behind the group that you were standing with.
A few feet to the wall. That is correct.
And Ms. Kosak never asked you to move out of the way, did she?
Not that I recall, no.
So while Ms. Kosak was standing behind the group you were standing with, Elias got up in his chair.
That is true.
The chimpanzee started screaming.
Started making the baby cries. Mm-hmm.
And while the chimpanzee was standing in his chair and screaming, Ms. Kosak didn't move towards Elias.
Well, all I saw was the hand gestures that was being made.
So while the chimpanzee was screaming in his chair, Ms. Kosak did not move towards the chimpanzee.
Not that I saw.
And you mentioned Ms. Kosak was doing hand signals.
That is correct.
But you never saw Ms. Kosak go up to the chimpanzee and give it a piece of fruit, did you?
Oh, no, I didn't. I tried to get out of there real quick.
Thank you, Mr. McCall. Nothing further, Your Honor.